I gotta say, this makes me happy. Me happy, right? Grand juries finally did what they're supposed to do and listen to all the evidence before coming to a conclusion and make the wrong decision. In this case, they made the right decision in two separate incidents, one in Columbus, Ohio, one in Providence, Rhode Island. You all have to know about this case from Ohio. You may not know about the one from Providence, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Back in April of 2021, a Columbus, Ohio police officer responded to a disturbance of a fight in progress. When he pulled up on the scene and exited his cruiser, he witnessed a female getting ready with a knife in her hand to stab another female in the chest. Based on his training, he did what he was supposed to do, drew his firearm and fired, striking the assailant, ended up killing her. They went nuts. People went nuts. Black girl, 16 years old, white cop. Protests. They wanted to condemn this cop. Fucking, what's his face? LeBron James posted the guy's picture all over social media. And we know what kind of piece of shit LeBron James is. Right? Condemning what this cop did because LeBron's a social justice warrior. It finally made it to a grand jury. And the grand jury, after listening to all the evidence and watching body cam footage, made the right decision. That police officer did what he was trained to do. He stopped the threat before that 16-year-old with the knife getting ready to stab the other girl in the chest could do it. He fired, striking her, and he killed her. But of course, the social justice warriors and the BLM activists all went bananas because he didn't have to kill her. He could have done something else. Why didn't he use his taser? Why didn't he shoot her in the leg? These are all the buffoons, the Monday morning quarterbacks who know zero about policing, who know zero about police training and how police officers are trained with firearms. You don't train to shoot someone in the leg or in the arm. If somebody is attacking somebody with a dangerous weapon that can kill them, no, you're not going to use less than lethal force. Your duty is to stop the assailant before they do harm to another. His decision was to pull his firearm and fire, striking that suspect, and she died. I gotta say, she's a 16-year-old, but you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And then the family, how wonderful this kid was. She was such a loving daughter. The mother didn't even have custody of her. She was at some party where people were partying and drinking, and I'm not going to get into the whole bullshit because I just saw this today, and it makes me happy that these jurors finally made a decision based on evidence and not based on sympathy and statements from all the social justice warriors out there who want to condemn the police when they have to use deadly force. Because everybody thinks cops love shooting people. They love killing people. They're going around killing and then they're going about their day. They don't understand the toll it takes on these officers and the suffering that they go through, knowing that they took someone's life. But what they did in turn was save another person's life from the violent attack of that 16-year-old girl. That cop didn't deserve to get indicted. He didn't deserve to get charged. He did what he was trained to do. And BLM and all the social justice warriors can go cry somewhere because it's over now. The cop did his job. He did it correctly. And finally, a grand jury was on the side of a police officer. Again, that was Columbus back in 2021. Just yesterday, I believe, a Rhode Island Providence County grand jury decided not to bring an indictment against a Providence police officer who was involved in an over 40-minute high-speed chase from Providence through Pawtucket back into Providence. The officers involved were chasing 3 subjects in a car who were seen on surveillance video getting out of the car with a rifle and shooting it at people. It turned out, after it's all said and done, it was a BB gun or a pellet gun. Beside the point. You're a police officer, you're responding to a call of shots fired, somebody with the gun. You're not thinking it's a BB gun or a pellet gun. You hear firearm and you go like they're trained to do. They go. They see the car takes off. Now several Providence cruisers, Pawtucket gets involved, and during the chase, the kids in this car, because they ended up being young kids, were pointing these rifles at the police cars chasing them. Now again, the police do not know that it's not a real firearm. You see it, you're taking it for real, and you're going to act accordingly. Chase wound through Pawtucket. Long story short, ended in Providence. I'm not sure exactly where, but it ended. The car crashed. The police converge on the car. One of the officers, they grabbed one of the kids out. They struck him a few times because he was resisting. They took him out. He had a fanny pack on and kept putting his hands towards the fanny pack. And if anybody knows anything about law enforcement and fanny packs with criminals, it's a great place to keep a weapon, a handgun, a knife, or something else. So what this officer did was strike this kid with a few blows before taking him down and cuffing him. And then, of course, he goes limp and pretends he's hurt because that's what they do. Okay, now they're seeing dollar signs. Now we're going to sue the police. After it's all said and done, the officers got him on the ground. The officer's yelling at him. And he turns and he spits on the ground in front of the suspect. Now everybody, all the witnesses, all the heroes that are on the street screaming at the cops, their kids, leave them alone, they didn't do anything. Now you're spitting on him. A, he did not spit on him. B, he didn't stop hitting him when he was handcuffed. He was taking the subject into custody the way he was trained to do, because all they knew, you had 3 people fleeing in a high-speed chase because they were shooting at people with a gun. One of the bigger aspects of this case was that the mayor and the public safety director in Providence were appalled by the excessive force used in taking down 3 violent, turned out to be juveniles, but violent for just what they were doing. Their police officers did what they were trained to do. Could they have fired at them? Absolutely. When they're chasing them and the kid's pointing the gun, they could have did a number of things, but they didn't. Those kids lived to see another day because the officers showed restraint in doing their job. But of course, the Attorney General is not happy. He's not happy because you couldn't get an indictment against a police officer because we all know elections rolling around and he needs votes. He hired expert witnesses in use of force, but basically they sold them out. They couldn't prove that these cops used excessive force because they didn't. So again, nice work to the grand jury who did their job and paid attention to the evidence and didn't indict based on social justice bullshit and BLM protests and bleeding hot politicians who were just looking for votes. This happens all too often in our country. Police are involved in shootings almost daily. Police officers are getting fired for shooting on somebody who was shooting at them. And if they're returning fire and striking the subject, the cities and towns where they're from want to fire the police for doing their job. This is what happened in Providence, and that's what happened in Ohio. These liberal, bleeding hot Democratic politicians are looking for votes, so they did everything in their power to try to hang these cops for doing their job. And guess what? They didn't succeed. and I'm glad, because these cops did their job honorably like they do every day. And they were all upset because the cop in Providence was telling a pregnant woman to shut her mouth, be quiet, get back on the curb. This has nothing to do with you. Oh, but he was yelling at a pregnant. That's the kind of bullshit that the police have to deal with. No one has their back. Not their superiors, not their mayors, not their public safety commissioners, and certainly not the attorneys general of these states. They're in it to win it, and win it, I mean votes. That's all they care about. So now, Rhode Island has an AG who couldn't indict a cop for doing his job, and again, kudos to the grand jury for not bringing an indictment against that cop. And in Columbus, Ohio, same thing. Hopefully the cop will be back on the job, and hopefully he's okay after killing a 16-year-old, because I'm quite sure that's not how he started his shift that day, thinking, today I'm going to kill a kid. I'm going to shoot and murder a kid, because it's not murder. It's called doing your job, and either you stop the threat or you let the threat hurt or kill somebody else. He did what he was paid to do and what he was trained to do. And the police officer in Providence did the same thing. And if he's not back on the job now, he deserves to be. And if he was suspended without pay, he deserves all his back pay, because he did his job the way he was trained. And the politicians couldn't get what they wanted, which is an indictment on bullshit to get more votes in the Democratic midterms that we all know are coming up. And that's it. That's my rant. I'm tired of seeing police officers every day get jammed up by bleeding hot politicians because they're looking for votes. They're not concerned that these cops are risking their lives. They're chasing violent people in high-speed chases. A 16-year-old was getting ready to stick a knife in another kid's chest, but the police were wrong. No, the police were right. The criminals were wrong. Yeah, the 16-year-old girl died. The 3 kids in Providence, again, lived to see another day because those cops used restraint in doing their job, not excessive force. All these politicians need to be voted out of office, because none of them do anything for anyone but themselves, especially for public safety. They could care less. They're trying to indict cops and fire cops for doing their job when we all know we need more public safety, police, fire, EMS. We need more, not less. And these bleeding hot Democrats need to wake up and either change the way they think or get run out of office by somebody who wants to come in and do the job the right way and for the people and not against the people who protect and serve their communities. Rant over. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't liked this video already, please consider liking it. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. And please share my videos with someone if you will. I hope everybody's healthy and safe. I'm sorry if I got a little heated, but it really bothers me when these cops are out there 24/7 doing a job and nobody's got their back. The people who are supposed to have their back are the ones that are trying to screw them and put them in prison and put them out of work, and it's just wrong. Have a great night. I'll be back again soon with something else to rant about.